Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we're so glad that you're back with us today. Today, we are talking Veronica Mars.
I'm laughing because I confession time, totally mixed it up
Yeah,
and was
did.
prepared to do hometown crime this week and do Veronica Mars next week. And I don't know why I got them flipped. But then, of course, I got on the ball and I got to watch the first 2 episodes of this. And I'm super glad because it's super cool.
Oh, did you like it?
I did. Well, we'll get there, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But I do like it.
Okay.
Overall. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Good. I mean, it's a fun, silly show.
Yes.
It starts off fun and silly. It changes a bit as it goes along.
You can tell that there's some legit drama brewing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's definitely an entertainment factor in watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of, at least through the initial 3 seasons, we'll get there about that too. It retains a lot of that fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's,
Yeah.
a lot. I watched it and I recognized a bunch of actors and actresses, of course. And I happen to be also sort of going back and watching Travelers again because it's one of my go-to comfort shows now. And I love that show. And, there's a big character in Travelers who is Veronica Mars' father in this show.
Oh.
So I was super excited to see 001.
Yeah, that's what he'd been in most recently that I remembered seeing.
Yeah,
him
he
from.
played Vincent Ingram, 001 Traveler.
But Veronica Mars, high schooler by day and private investigator 24/7. She sets out to seek justice and answers for issues big and small.
It's a little mix of different kinds of shows, and I love the fusion of it.
Yeah, it's kind of film noir in some ways.
Yep.
But it's also funny, but it's also a teen drama.
Yes.
It's a lot of things all mixed together.
It is. It's a lot of things. It is one of those quintessential shows where like the teenagers are definitely not teenagers.
Yeah.
Like the boys are just a little too hairy to be like,
17.
Yeah.
As
Maybe
somebody
not even.
who has a nearly 17-year-old, he's not unhairy,
Right.
but he's not man hairy yet.
And it's just kind of funny. But of course, that's just how it goes. But sometimes it's a little funny to watch because you're like, oh, you're not a child.
Yeah. It was created by Rob Thomas, not the guy from Matchbox 20.
No.
Though they do, in every Rob Thomas show I've ever seen, they've made fun of Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20.
Oh, that's funny. What a little Easter egg. I'm going to have to go listen for that.
It is a little Easter egg. So this was like his first big original concept, but after this show was concluded, he rebooted 90210 in 2008. So the original series that ran back in the 90s was Beverly Hills 90210, and when they brought it back, rebooted it, it was just 90210,
right?
Which is all anybody ever called it anyway.
Oh yeah, nobody ever called it Beverly Hills 90210.
No. He rebooted that, and then he had a little fun show, which we might have to talk about at some point, called iZombie.
Oh, I never watched that. Did you?
I watched like the first season. It came on right when we became cord cutters.
Oh.
So we didn't have cable anymore.
Okay.
I think we had Sling at that time as our TV provider sort of thing. And I think I watched the first season and then we got rid of Sling and it was not included on whatever came next.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember exactly. But there was a reason. It wasn't that I disliked the show that I stopped watching it. It was just
makes sense.
Busy, inconvenient, not able to find it easily enough to go and watch it, and not compelled enough to seek it out. One of those.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because some shows really do get buried in the popularity of others, which are, just more trendy for some reason. And it's so hard because there's some good shows that can kind of get buried.
That's exactly what happened with Veronica Mars. We'll get to that in a little bit. But, it's exactly what happened with the show. But starring Kristen Bell as Veronica Mars. If you're an adult, most recently you probably know her from The Good Place.
Oh, yes. She was great in that.
She was so good and funny and not dissimilar to this character.
Not dissimilar. I noticed that.
Cute and peppy, but a really dark side. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Mm-hmm. And then if you have kids, she's the voice of Anna from Frozen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably where you know her from. My kids will pick out, I'll be watching shows and they'll be like, that guy's Olaf. And I'm like, what? Who?
It's funny how that works. Okay, so my kids watched Star Wars when they were pretty young. So they had watched it and was very familiar with Star Wars. Well, I loved the movie The Sandlot.
Yeah.
So when they were, old enough to maybe sit through and care enough, we watched The Sandlot. And if you're not familiar, towards the end, the baseball had been hit into the other yard and they finally get back there after a squabble, a pickle with the dog. And basically the owner of the dog comes out. Right. And he's this professional baseball player and it's James Earl Jones that's playing this character. And he comes out and he starts yelling at the kids. And my kids both went like, it's Darth Vader. Now, mind you, they've never, ever seen James Earl Jones.
Right.
It was the voice and they picked it up immediately.
Yeah. Well, and James Earl Jones wasn't Darth Vader. I mean, he was Darth Vader.
He was
the
Darth Vader.
voice, but he wasn't the guy walking around in the show.
Who recently we just lost.
2020. You're such a pisser.
I know it. Ugh.
Yeah.
But it was a funny moment. I thought it was kind of hysterical that they were like, it's Darth Vader. I'm like, this whole movie, and that's what got you. Okay.
Then we have Percy Daggs III, who plays Wallace. Teddy Dunn plays Duncan. He was in Jumper in 2008. Jason Doring plays Logan. He was in Deep Impact. And he worked with Rob Thomas again on iZombie as a reoccurring character. He was in like 15 episodes or something. So quite a few. He was on The Originals, which was a spinoff of The Vampire Diaries that I watched.
Yeah, you did?
I
did not
I was
watch
one
it.
of those, I liked The Vampire Diaries enough to watch The Originals. I think I got a little annoyed with it after a while, but it was fun enough. It was one of those to have on while you're doing other stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah. Francis Capra plays Weevil, and he looks really familiar because he's had one episode parts on lots and lots and lots of different shows.
Yeah, like everything.
Like if they need a gang member, this is the
him.
guy that they're calling.
Yeah, like I've seen him on everything. I know his face so well.
Yeah. But you can't name anything else he's been on, right?
No, I had to look it up and see what else are you in? Because he's really good.
He is really good.
He's really good.
He is really good. He did play in Free Willy 2 at age 11, which I thought was kind of endearing.
I was about to say endearing also. That was the word.
And he also was on several episodes of iZombie. So if you can get in with Rob Thomas on a show,
you're good.
He's probably gonna ask you to work with him again if you do a decent job. Enrico Colantoni.
Yeah. Colantoni. I don't know.
But
001.
He plays 001. He plays Keith Mars, and he was Elliot on Just Shoot Me, which I loved. It was funny show from the late 90s, early 2000s. So right up until the show,
it was funny.
Like he finished Just Shoot Me and started on this show, it seems like. And he's been in tons and tons of stuff. Also iZombie.
Oh, how
all
about
of
that?
these people keep showing up. And then in the second episode, the one character that is worth a mention that we don't see in the first episode is Paris Hilton.
Caitlin Ford.
Yep. So shall we recap these first 2 episodes?
Yes.
I'm going to do like the briefest of brief recaps
All right.
because there's so much that happens.
There is a lot.
In 2 episodes. I mean, they set up the whole series and smaller mysteries because it's really kind of formulaic, this show. But it's really fun. So there's some kind of big mystery that's a season-long arc. And then you have smaller mysteries that are within it 1 or 2 episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
It has a procedural feel in that way.
Yes, for sure. In sunny, elite Neptune, Southern California, we meet Veronica Mars and learn that she has an unusual after-school job because her family isn't wealthy. You're either wealthy or not in Neptune, and her family is the not. And she helps her dad with investigative work at his private investigation business. She has a soft spot for those who are persecuted. She cuts down the new kid, Wallace, from being duct taped to a flagpole. Veronica's smart, sassy, and formerly popular. Her best friend and sister to her former boyfriend was murdered, and her dad was the sheriff, and he botched the investigation. Ish.
We don't know yet.
Yeah.
As of episode 2, we don't know yet.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
That's right. So Celeste Kane, the mother of the former boyfriend Duncan and BFF Lily, hires Keith because she suspects infidelity of her husband. Eventually, Veronica learns it's her own estranged mother that the billionaire is seeing in a seedy motel. I think it's a motel.
Yeah,
There's a difference between a motel and a hotel, and this is a motel.
Yes, this is a motel.
Yeah.
I think there's an actual difference.
Yes.
Like a definitive, like this is what makes a motel and this is what makes a hotel.
I'll look that up and find out and post the difference.
Yeah.
On social media. Which you can find us on Facebook, Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send me an email, killerfunpodcast@gmail.com. So Wallace, the flagpole kid, got in a pickle. With the PCH motorcycle gang, which I'm pretty sure stands for Pacific Coast Highway.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what PCH stands for. But anyway, the motorcycle gang. Veronica Mars has a really confusing relationship with its leader, Weevil, and she has some creative solutions to help Wallace out. Before Lily's murder, Veronica was roofied and became a victim of rape, and she's haunted by not knowing what happened. And Logan, who used to date Lily, has a new girlfriend, but she's carrying on a secret relationship with a PCHer, one of those motorcycle gang kids, with a credit card that was stolen from Logan's family. All this stuff happens. So we're left with resolved and unresolved cases at the end of the second episode. So we have unresolved, Lily's murder, Veronica's rape, why Veronica's mom is meeting a billionaire at a crummy motel.
Yes.
Resolved, Wallace's issues with the motorcycle gang, the stolen credit card information, the relationship between Logan's girlfriend, Caitlin, and the gang member, Chardo, and also that the Sack and Pack finally has a video game that's worthwhile.
Yes. Golden Tea, no less.
Golden
It's
Tea.
Golden Tea. We were obsessed with Golden Tea.
Were you?
Oh my gosh.
I had never heard of Golden Tea.
Obsessed with Golden Tea. That's my husband and I, this is what we used to do when we were dating, is go play Golden Tea.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, put a pin in that, because we're going to get back to that. This show, it started out on UPN, and then UPN became the CW. So It had 2 seasons on UPN and just 1 season on the CW. And it was originally a young adult novel that Rob Thomas had written.
That Rob Thomas wrote?
Yes.
Oh.
He's a writer.
Okay.
First and foremost, I think.
All right.
And then ends up showrunner, producer, or whatever for these shows that he writes. And he's written for other shows that he didn't create. But he also writes books. But it's faster to write a script than a book.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah. So it started out as a book, and it had a male protagonist, but he changed it because he thought it was more interesting from a female perspective. Mm-hmm. I would say agreed.
Agreed.
When the show was canceled and Rob Thomas wrote a feature film script, Warner Brothers decided not to fund it. But Kristen Bell and Rob Thomas launched a fundraising campaign on Kickstarter and raised their goal of $2 million in like 11 hours to make the film, and ended up raising almost $6 million to make a film, which I didn't realize until after I had watched the whole thing. I'm like, there's a film? Maybe that's why I didn't understand the beginning of season 4 very well. But there was a season 4. It was rebooted by Hulu and released in July of 2019, which was kind of fun. But there is no plan for a 5th season at this time.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, it kind of wrapped up.
Yeah, I could see that it might.
Yeah. So all the films.
The films.
All the scenes that were supposed to be filmed in Neptune were done in Oceanside, California. And then there was a lot of scenes that were also filmed in San Diego. And it's estimated they spent $44 million a year on shooting locations in San Diego, which was half of the income, the revenue generated by filming in San Diego for the years that it filmed there.
What?
I know! So much money, right?
So much money.
So much money.
Yikes.
The high school was Oceanside High School, and they paid $7,750 to rent the high school for the scenes. They filmed them in the summertime when school was in session, which doesn't seem like enough when they spend $44 million filming other stuff.
I feel like the school got kind of gypped.
I do.
Like, they should be able to make the big bucks on that. Mm-hmm. Dang.
They have, it's a fairly rabid fan base, I think is fair.
Yeah, so this is why I haven't watched it, but why I know about it. Because, like, my sister-in-law was obsessed with it. Like, people I knew were kind of, like, cult favorite about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it got canceled, fans sent the CW 10,000 Mars bars to try and get them to reconsider. And it didn't work, though I appreciate their effort.
Why did they cancel it if it was popular?
I don't think it was that popular. It had a very rabid fan base, very excited, happy, loved it fan base, and critics liked it, but ratings-wise, it wasn't doing great.
To be fair, Travelers is kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mention it because, I'm watching it, but also with the lead character here, Keith Mars. Mm-hmm. A lot of shows seem to have that, where they just don't get that wide mainstream popularity, but the ones who love it. They love it
so much. Yes. So it was kind of heralded as the next Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I could see that.
Because that had just gone off the air and they were looking for what was the next, like, a big thing, the thing that people would be culturally significant and people would love.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer really upped the game. It didn't talk down to the teenagers who were supposed to be the stars of it. They didn't make the kids out to be stupid and vapid and, it was a smartly written show. And so people were kind of looking for that.
Right. That makes sense. This could fill that bill. I could see that.
Well, and they really thought it was going to, and unfortunately, it debuted, according to Den of Geek, from this article by Caroline Priest in June of 2019. This show debuted at the same time as Lost and Desperate Housewives.
Oh, dang.
So
Ouch.
Lost got a ton of attention.
Yes, that's where I was.
Uh-huh. And this show, because it was on UPN too, I think, really got buried.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I was watching Lost live, the pilot.
Yeah.
Like I was right there.
Yeah, you were ready.
Oh, I was ready.
Yeah.
And don't call me. I was watching Lost, like, leave me alone.
I'm going to screen my calls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I could see why it would be hard. I mean, UPN, it's not like a small cable channel, but it wasn't like a network either.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't have the reach of NBC, ABC, CBS.
Or TBS.
Yeah, or TBS.
One of the cable channels that were, a little bit just more ubiquitous, I think.
Mm-hmm. But it really paved the way for other shows about teens, like Pretty Little Liars.
No, which you love.
Which I have opinions.
You have opinions.
I do. But what they called Pretty Little Liars the love child of Veronica Mars and 90210. Like, fair. All right, we're going to take a real quick break and we'll be back with Is It True?
Do you like coffee?
Love it.
Do you like true crime?
Absolutely love it.
Then Crime with My Coffee would be a great way to add a little bit of both to your day. We are a mother-daughter duo, and we take turns telling each other about a different true crime case each week over a cup of coffee. So why don't you head on over to www.crimewithmycoffee.com and give us a listen.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Ashley.
And we host True Crimes and Weird Times, where we answer questions like...
Did the government really kill Danny Casolaro?
Did you know that the movie Scream was based on an actual serial killer?
How much do you know about skinwalkers?
Join us every Wednesday for your weekly dose of true crimes,
the unexplained,
and the just plain weird.
Check out our website, truecrimesweirdtimes.com.
Find us on Instagram and Facebook.
And listen to us anywhere you listen to podcasts.
So come check us out.
We'll be waiting.
Thanks for sticking with us through that quick break. All right. Is it true?
I can't wait to see what you've come up with for this.
Thank you. I'm glad you have such faith in me far as like what I'm going to come up with. So, is Neptune, California real?
I'm going to go with no.
No, but it's not quite that easy.
Okay.
Because it's a little trickier to answer. Bustle had a article by Savannah Walsh in July of 2019, right around the time the final season came out. And she said that, yes, Neptune's a fictionalized town, but Rob Thomas based it on Orange County.
Okay, well.
Which makes sense. And it's Orange County, basically. They talk about it being 85 miles or so from San Diego.
Check.
Orange County. That it's in Balboa County, which is fictional, but Balboa Island is in Orange County.
Okay.
Yeah, which we talked about that in when we talked about Dirty John.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where Balboa Island's where they bought a house. So it's fictional, but really related to a real place. So Veronica works as a private investigator. Could she be licensed as a high school student?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And not first of all, she's too young.
Yeah.
Most states require you to be between 21 and 25 years old. And you have to have a high school diploma, which she does not yet have at the beginning of this. And you need quite a bit of there's quite a bit that goes into becoming a
it's a kind
private
of involved
investigator
process.
Yes. So in California, here's some things private investigators do. They vet potential investors and potential business partners. They verify on-the-job injury claims. They might catch a cheating spouse, which is something we saw right here in this first episode. Find a missing loved one. It's often a second career for people because one of the things you have to do is have so many hours of paid investigative work before you can get your license.
Oh.
So in California, you have to have 6,000 hours of paid investigative work over 3 years, which is 2,000 hours of paid investigative work a year, which is like 40 hours. It's full time. It's 40 hours a week, basically 52 weeks a year.
Now,
so you really have to be working. So you might work for a PI company and not yet be licensed.
right. And that makes sense. I mean, there's lots of licensing like that. For instance, licensed professional counselors.
Right.
Or where you come in and you're actually you have your temporary license or you're under the supervision. But why why so much regulation and requirement for investigators?
I don't know.
Like for counseling, I get it. You're messing with people's minds. You're purporting to be able to help them and deal with their, most private and important and personal things. Why in the world do you have to be so licensed? I mean, it's one thing to have a license to say, okay, yes, I have done the work. I'm a person you can trust. The state trusts me, blah, blah, blah. Why do you have to have so much experience? What if you're just good at it?
What, like Veronica? If you're just good at it like she is? Yeah, but they do a lot of things. They follow people around. So they have to have firearms training because they might get in situations where they would need to defend themselves. They're looking up sensitive information about people. And that's why, and all this highly extensive amount of hours that you need to work is why it ends up being a second career for people. So
that makes sense.
Like law enforcement officers, military, police, attorneys, people doing repossession, all of those jobs would qualify. So if you were doing those jobs for a living and then decided you wanted to go ahead and become a private investigator for yourself,
it'd be easy.
It would be pretty easy. That would be pretty easy to document all of that. And that makes sense why Keith Mars would become one.
Oh, yeah. He was sheriff.
Now,
the show kind of dealt with the fact that she wasn't really a PI, right? Because they kind of make the joke, like, I don't know how you guys get so much done when it's just your dad. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, she's supposed to just be the front office person.
Right, yeah.
And
she's
they're
like, secretary.
Yeah, right. Dropped a file in front of her. Yeah. Dad has time, nudge, nudge.
It was
they
funny.
all know that she's doing the work, but she can't. So, yeah.
Yes, because while most places you have to be between 21 and 25, California only requires you to be 18.
But to be fair, she's not working as a licensed PI, but she is working under the supervision of somebody who is.
Fair.
So this is fair game.
This is fair game.
She's a paid investigator. She's just not licensed yet.
Yeah. Okay. They don't make that much money. So Los Angeles, Long Beach area in California, it's only between $80,000 and $120,000 a year that they're making.
Oh, that's not much in that area.
In that area, I mean, here that's fine.
Like a lot, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. But in Southern California,
not
you're
so
still cutting coupons. Yeah. So Veronica's following Jake Kane at the seedy motel. The Camelot, I think is what it was. And she's sitting in her car and the PCHers drive up and one of them gets too close and she gets him with her
taser.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. She gets him with her taser, or does she? Because taser is a brand name.
Oh.
And actually, tasers work from a distance, and they have the little things that shoot out on the end of wires.
Right. Okay.
Okay. But what she had is a stun gun.
See, now I would have thought it was the opposite. I feel like the stun gun is the one that has something that shoots out of it, and the taser should be like in your hand, but it's the opposite?
According to California crimes, laws, and penalties.
Wow. How about that?
Yes. But it would have been acceptable for her to have one in the state of California. You just can't be a convicted felon. You can't have drug charges. You must be at least 16. And 16 and 17-year-olds don't even need a parent's consent to carry one.
All right.
Yeah. Which I was like, okay. I guess if you're under 16, if you have parental consent, maybe you can carry one.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know either. You just can't buy it on your own.
Maybe.
I don't know.
It's interesting.
It is interesting.
Hey, she wielded it well. Of course, also her dog.
Yeah, backup.
Yeah, backup.
Take backup with you.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's so funny.
Mm-hmm. Backup. And then what her code word was, look under the hood. The dog went exploding out of the car.
It was so funny.
Great. I love him.
So Veronica says that 90% of identity theft is done by a family member because she thinks that Logan is setting up the housekeeper's family who just happens to be Weevil's grandma. Mm-hmm. I can't find anything that says 90%.
That seems like a high number.
It seems like a really high number. But while most of us imagine that, it's some hooded criminal hacking into a database to steal our identities, it very often is friends or family who are committing financial fraud or medical fraud or social security fraud or tax
those are the
fraud.
things we don't tend to think of with identity theft, right? I mean, we do kind of tend to think of somebody assuming your identity. But so I can imagine if you included all the times a kid has taken out a credit card without permission and done all of those kind of things, I could see it being kind of way up there.
Well, or somebody doesn't have insurance. Mm-hmm. So they, like in Friends? Rachel borrowed Monica's health insurance.
Yep.
That's fraud.
That's fraud. And it's identity theft, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. And then Golden Tee.
Golden Tee.
I was like, I'm sure that's a real game.
Oh, yeah.
I've never played it.
No, it's so much fun.
Is it fun?
It's legitimately so much fun.
Really?
Yeah, it's golf.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because, we played Golden Tee all the time when we were younger. And my husband really kind of despised golf. But he loved this game because it was just... Now he loves golf, and I'm like, it was a precursor.
That's right.
It was
you were planting the seeds the whole time.
Yes. Now at Best Buy they sell a home arcade version of this.
Oh yeah, like in the cabinet.
Yeah, like in the cabinet, and it has all the Golden Tees.
Really?
Yeah,
how fun!
It's kind of fun.
Well, it's a pretty cool. It's got some interesting backstory to it. So it began as a golf simulator for those giant family entertainment centers. That's how Golden Tee got started. Okay. And when it didn't get purchased for that, rather than let all that work and coding go to waste, they developed it for regular arcade cabinets. And it was released in 1989. It sold pretty well, but in 1995, Peter Jacobson's Golden Tee 3D Golf was the first to support online network play.
Oh, okay.
So they had a test tournament in November and December of 1995 on 24 game consoles in the Chicago area, and they awarded real money.
Wow.
Like $1,100 the winner. Yeah.
Dang.
Which is pretty cool that they had this basically attached to the internet before anything like that was attached to the internet.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
I know. The online gameplay is actually older than we tend to think because it really wasn't the World Wide Web as much as it was an internet, right? So, there are differences kind of ish. So,
yeah.
like as far as the connectivity. Anyways, but yes, that's so cool that they were one of the first.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Really neat, right?
Mm-hmm. It is fun because it has a big golf ball in the middle, like a big, so it's like you actually have to, roll your hand over it. And so there's a physical component where you don't just like hit the buttons at the right time. You literally have to, by direction and speed and everything with the way that you roll the ball.
That's pretty cool. That's actually a technology from the same company that they used on Capcom Bowling.
Makes sense.
They retooled the, this is bowling and this is... No, it's going to be golf.
Yeah, it's golf.
Golden Tee.
Yay.
All right, psychology break. So Veronica really seemed to long for the days when she was popular.
Yes, she did.
But I really am sort of unclear as to whether it was the popularity that she missed or just that life was simpler. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of things happened right around and right before she lost her popularity that made her life much more complicated.
Yeah.
Death of a friend, breakup.
Yeah, her father got run out of the sheriff's office.
She got raped.
She was raped as a result of her trying to kind of insert herself back into her life.
Right.
After being kicked out and sort of being shunned. And then her mom leaves.
Yeah. Poor kid. So I have a couple articles, and both of them talk about different aspects of a book by Mitch Preenstein, Popular, The Power of Likability in a Status-Obsessed World. Do you know this one?
Nope,
No,
I don't know it. The subject is not unfamiliar, of course, but I don't know this book. The article.
It seems like it might be interesting.
Yeah.
So he did a interview with Colleen Park in May of 2017 for Psychology Today. Mitch Preenstein did. He said that studies suggest that those high in status as adolescents are more prone to risky behavior and relationship difficulties, at least through early adulthood. So if you're popular in high school, it's actually possibly detrimental.
I'm processing that because I could see some reasons why, but I'm not using my psychology brain. I'm kind of using my parenting brain in thinking about that a little bit.
Yeah.
It makes a little bit of sense, but does he kind of expand on that a little?
I'm sure he does in the book, not specifically in this article. And he's saying that you should really try and be likable rather than just popular. Because if you're likable, you're actually more likely to live a longer and healthier life. Your relationships are going to be easier, more beneficial, that you're more likely to have good job that you're happy in. You're seen as a team player rather than something to aspire to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that research shows that certain parts of the brain respond to likes and followers and being noticed, which is part of popularity and status. But that helping others and feeling connected can also activate those same parts of the brain, just not quite as quickly.
Yeah.
But it's more long lasting when you activate those through more, I don't know what to call it.
More meaningful.
More meaningful ways. Mm-hmm. There you go. So he said it's helpful to steer people towards that sort of popularity rather than status. Go for likability.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then he also said, but don't worry, popular kids are less influential than more parents would think. So that they actually don't have, this was in The Atlantic by Joe Pinsker, they do have a fair amount of influence over mostly relatively inconsequential things. So music and clothing, they have a lot of influence over that. They have some sway over sex, alcohol, drugs, things like that, but it's not necessarily a negative effect. So if you're telling your kids, I don't think you should drink because it's not safe for your developing brain, they're more likely to listen to you than they are to listen to their peer group. But their peer group might also be telling them the straight and narrow is a better place to be. So if the popular kids are doing positive things and they get reinforcement of that from their parents, then they're more likely to do things like volunteer because the cool kids are doing it and my parents approve.
Right.
Rather than the cool kids are doing it and my parents don't approve, then they feel that tug.
Right.
So they're at least more likely to think about not doing something if you disapprove, unless they're just really rebellious, which some kids are.
Some kids are.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I think we downplay the power of our own voice as a parent.
Yeah.
You know?
But, you know, you can rest a little easier that the popular kids aren't just gonna, you know, anarchy.
It's not Lord of the Flies.
No, it's really not. And real life.
Real life. Now, this is, I can't wait to see what we're going to talk about because, I mean, this show, like nothing except for those plaid pants from the early 2000s and the late 90s when that became popular. You know what I mean? Like a few other things like that, nothing seemed real.
Well, no, not really. I mean, sort of, but not really. So there isn't any one person who can be attributed to the rise of streaming video or streaming media.
Yeah.
They made it like that was how the guy became a billionaire, Jake Kane.
Is that he basically created Flash?
Streaming video.
And I kept thinking in my head, now I have to go back and figure out what definition of streaming do they mean. And all I could think was, this was an early version of Flash player. So that you could play an uploaded embedded video on a website. Not streaming.
Right.
Like live streaming. Anyway, I had to go back a few iterations.
Yeah. Yeah. Though, I thought it was really interesting that streaming media actually kind of started in the 1920s. If you can believe that. So George O. Squire got a patent for transmission and distribution of signals over electrical lines. How did it get used commercially? Muzak.
Oh, okay.
Because they wanted to be able to pipe into elevators or office buildings or hold music without commercials in it.
Right.
Because they didn't want to advertise somebody else's business while you were on hold.
Right, and they had to do that on a private, closed circuit sort of thing.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That Muzak would have started that.
Yep. And it wasn't until the internet really became a thing in the late 90s, early 2000s that video of any kind was able to be played. It really had to do with bandwidth and the size of the files, the powerful computers.
Now that's still the same.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
still the same. It still matters.
Yep. All right, so Veronica's parents split up after Keith lost his job as sheriff, and male partner job loss is actually a significant predictor of divorce.
I believe it.
Yeah. So Today website, like the television show Today.
Oh, yeah.
I just realized I'm like, oh, yeah, Today? No, not.
Yeah.
The show.
Like the Today Show.
The Today Show.
But this is the website.
Yes, which is today.com.
Today.com.
Yeah. In July of 2016, Linda Carroll did an article about it, and that when men lose their job, there's a 32% higher risk of divorce as compared to those who work full time.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a lot of mediating factors that
Yes.
that could contribute. So, I mean,
but when you compensate for those and job loss is the thing, it's much harder for relationships to remain intact when a man in a male-female partnership loses his job, particularly unexpectedly. It puts a lot of stress. There's still a bringing home the bacon pressure on men. I don't know if the pandemic has changed that at all.
Yeah, well, because that's actually what I was thinking about, was all the mediating factors, because it could be, I mean, I don't know I have to go read the study. I don't know what they kind of show as a interpretation of it, but I mean, I could imagine that, sure, part of it might be this whole like loss of kind of a manliness and all of that, but on the other hand, why did they lose their job? And so like there may be this very confounding factor of those who got fired were just as bad at home, and whatever occurred that created that situation. Yeah. You know, and then are they talking about laid off and fired, or just fired, or all? And then, of course, you know, the other thing is, you know, did the woman work in that situation, and how's that complicated? Because unfortunately, for many, many decades, women were financially dependent on a man. And so it may even be less about bring home the bacon as it is now they feel free because they're no longer beholden to a marriage that may not be good because it doesn't provide a paycheck. So now that last hold of survival is kind of gone, and it's like, well,
yeah, if you can't help support me, I might as well go. Yeah, because it wasn't that great anyway.
Yeah, so I just wonder like what kind of combination of factors, but nevertheless, I mean, still an indicator, a risk factor. Yeah, sure.
Well, whatever the factors, Mrs. Mars left.
Mrs. Mars left, but there seems to be some stuff going on there.
Oh,
there's some stuff. I can see the stuff going on there.
There's underlying stuff.
There's underlying stuff going on there.
There's a beach party. They have this party at the beach, and there's kegs for underage kids.
Oh, yes.
As there is, because, you know, just because you're underage doesn't mean you can't get a hold of a keg now and again. Anyway, so the police show up and bust it.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, cook out at my house tomorrow night. Because there's all these kegs of beer. They're gonna keep the kegs. So that got me thinking, can the police just keep your stuff?
Well, no, not really. But they kind of do. Right?
But they can.
But after a process.
Ish.
Okay.
So Vox.com had a whole article about this from 2016 that there's something called civil forfeiture that allows police to take and keep your property without a criminal conviction.
Okay.
So they just need probable cause to take your assets. And usually it's not like a keg wouldn't really be an issue. It wouldn't be anything that anybody would even worry about because the beer is going to go bad one way or another. So if the cops take it and drink it, whatever. I mean, the kids were underage. They shouldn't have had it anyway. That's really not what they're talking about when they talk about this. Usually it has to do with drug trafficking.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah. Some states do require a criminal conviction, but some don't. If you jump bail or whatever, you forfeit all of your assets. If they take it with probable cause and you don't pursue getting it back, they can just keep it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
And they can take the property and log it into evidence, even if you haven't been arrested, just so long as they have probable cause.
Okay.
But really, there is mostly a process.
Mostly, right? Okay.
Mostly. And individual police departments will end up keeping some of it, and they typically use that money for training and stuff.
Christmas parties.
Maybe, I don't know. But a lot of states have laws that make it so that they're not abusing it. Like that'll go into the general city fund rather than for the individual police department. Now, federal law works a little different, but that kind of led me down the rabbit hole of Rabbit Hill?
The
rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rabbit Hill, though. That's interesting.
It's instead of the trail, it's the hill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that led me down a rabbit trail of what happens to drug money and other assets when they're seized. And I also learned I don't know how to spell the word seized very well. Because I spelled it really wrong in my notes and just didn't bother to look it up.
Thanks, Google and autocorrect for making us terrible spellers.
That's right. Well, I was always a bad speller.
I was always not a great speller either.
So when drugs are seized, the drugs themselves are destroyed.
Right.
After whatever process, if they need it for evidence or whatever. Or they log it and then destroy it. Okay. If they don't want it like sitting around or whatever.
Yeah, that kind of makes it a target, right?
Mm-hmm. And then guns are disposed of if they can't be sold. Okay. For whatever reason. Cash and assets are taken to a secure location. And then once the trials are done or whatever, if they are able to secure a conviction, which can take years, then the assets get sold, the money gets distributed.
And it goes back to the departments. And they can make a... Maybe I'm wrong, but they can make requests, right? Like they can put in their requests, like a wish list for like, hey, we know there's money coming up. This is our wish list, you know, and they can kind of, campaign for it, I guess. In a way.
And they like to ask for it for training and equipment and things specifically to fight the kinds of infractions that were the result of the money. So usually drug money, they try and put that into training narcotics officers or funding covert operations or stuff like that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I just hadn't really thought about it. I'm like, you see piles of money, see the guy laying on the money and what was that show? Breaking Bad. It was Mexico. That's all I'm saying. Laying on a pile of money that's like $60 million or something. It was so much money.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway.
Makes me think of a Golden Girls episode.
Oh, I'll tell us.
The one where Sophia gets all these extra checks from the government. It was like a clerical error. And so she gets all these Social Security checks and all of this. And so she cashes them all and gets the cash. And so Dorothy finally has to talk her into sending the money back. Like, you have to tell them that they've made this error. And she's like, no. Well, are they really going to want it back after an old woman has wriggled in it?
Has wriggled in it. Yeah, they want it back.
Yes, they want it back.
There's cocaine on like 90% of all paper money.
Isn't that interesting? It's weird.
Bananas. It's
interesting, right?
Yeah. I guess, if there's so much money that you have to treat it for earwigs and stuff to make sure that it's not being eaten.
Gross.
Yeah, it's gross.
I know. But it's just gross. Okay.
Anyway, so Lily had outstanding traffic tickets when she died.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, does somebody have to pay that?
I mean, I think normally, but not if you're this family.
Well.
Hence, call the sheriff, and the sheriff makes everything fine again, right?
Yes. So that got me wondering. So basically, when you die, your debt dies with you. Ish.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I always thought that the estate was responsible for it.
Well, the estate is responsible for it, but your family members aren't responsible for it. Ish. It's complicated. Okay. But basically, and it's different from state to state, country to country, wherever you're at. I mean, obviously, contact an attorney, a law professional or a tax professional. But basically, when you die, your estate pays as much of your debt as you can, as it can, and anything that's left over is forgiven. So unless you have a joint loan with somebody, so your house or your car, if you're both on the house or the car and one of you dies, the other one's still obligated to pay. But if your husband took out a car note and you're not on it, they can take the car.
Right.
But they can't require you to pay for the rest of the car.
Okay.
They only require you to pay for it if you're going to keep it.
Okay.
So if you inherit something from somebody else, then you can inherit their debt, but that's because you're choosing to keep the asset.
Okay.
As well.
But if there's no asset, if there's just an IOU, like there's no asset left over, your estate pays for it, and then whatever is over what your estate can pay for, your family members aren't responsible to cough up the money.
Exactly.
All
as
right.
long as they're not continuing to benefit from those things.
Right. Okay.
So, but that also means like if your great Uncle Harry's watch, that has sentimental value, you might not be able to keep that if he has debt.
Because they have to use it.
Because they're going to use that to pay for his debt. There was a lady in my husband's office, and there was a family member that she'd never met. It was a family member of her deceased husband.
Okay.
And there was no one left to deal with his estate. She was it. She'd never met this guy. Had to plan his funeral.
What?
And work out all the details, but she didn't have to pay his debt.
Okay.
For him. Now, there was just nobody else to take care of his final arrangements. So she did it. I was like, I don't know that I would. It'd just be like, I don't know this person.
I don't know that person. Yeah.
But, so, but she wasn't obligated to pay for anything outside of...
The estate could pay for.
Yeah, what the estate could pay for.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. And then Chardo got rolled out of the gang after he tried to take his rich girlfriend, Caitlin, away. He was going to whisk her away so that they could go live happily ever after. But he should have known better because she was a rich girl and she was really just slumming it with him.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, getting rolled out of a gang, blood in, blood out is a common sort of thing. And I think they tamed it down for UPN.
I think so.
Because Weevil made it a point to say, beat him up and then tell somebody stop him before they go too far. In other words, don't kill him.
Don't kill him.
But almost. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely for the young adult audience right there. That was like a TVY 14 call.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
If you are in a gang or know somebody who's in a gang and you need to get out, yourlifecounts.org has some suggestions about what you might want to do. So don't tell the gang that you plan to leave.
No. That's why it's called fading.
Yes. And that's basically what they're suggesting here is just fade away just to kind of... Because if they know you're planning on leaving, you have information that could get them in trouble with the authorities.
Yep.
And they don't want you to snitch, which is something they didn't know how to spell. The PCHers didn't know how to spell. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't notice that. That's funny.
When they tied Wallace
up to the flagpole.
To the flagpole with the
duct tape.
With the duct tape. Also very... UPN appropriate, gave him a pair of duct tape underwear.
Yes.
So that, nothing untoward was showing.
Yes. Ow, by the way. Ow,
yes.
Ow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was really wearing underwear. It's okay. You don't have to
I
feel
know,
bad for the
still.
article. Or the article, the actor.
For the article.
You don't have to feel bad for the article. The actor.
Well, that is actually what I felt bad for, I guess. So. I digress.
Yes.
So they misspelled snitch?
Yeah.
that's funny.
SNICH. They left the T out.
That's hysterical.
Which I thought was really funny.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Find other interests. Do things that aren't gang related. Basically, spend time with your family. Stop dressing like the gang because they have dress codes. They can be identified. Stop dressing in an identifiable way. Don't do the things they do. Don't talk the way they talk. Don't be available to the gang. Yeah. Change your phone number. Move if you can. If it's a really bad one,
get out.
Consider moving.
You might have to, depending on where you are, you might have to make a serious life change.
Yeah. Yeah. Depending on the gang, depending on where you live. I mean,
depending on how well your fading's going.
Yeah.
If your fading's not going so well.
Yeah, they keep pulling you back in.
Yeah. Or they realize it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they recognize that you're somehow not available all the time, and now they get curious. That's a problem. And that's a problem from your quote small gangs, to your large gangs. They're created because they're a family. We all recognize when a family member starts to kind of pull away.
Right.
We do. And these gangs, now they're obviously nefarious and they do horrible things mostly. And they're, of course, known for violence and drug running and all of these kinds of things. But the truth is, these are people who clung together in the streets and across poverty lines a lot of times because they don't have anywhere else to go.
Right.
So this is their safety net. They notice.
Yeah. They notice if you're no longer, if you're leaving a hole in that safety net.
And believe it or not, as much of it is business, it's going to be personal too.
Yeah.
It's a rejection. And nobody's going to talk emotions. Nobody's going to have a nice little talk or a chat. But the truth is, the people that anyone would be leaving in a gang are going to feel very rejected. They're going to feel judged.
Yeah.
By the fact that you've decided that life isn't good anymore. So there's a lot of emotion that's going to drive some.
But they're not going to talk about it. They're going to talk about how you're leaving your responsibilities.
Right. That's how they're going to phrase it.
Yeah. Rather than I feel rejected by you.
Right.
Which is really at the heart of it.
They're going to make it business. They're going to distance themselves emotionally by calling it about business. Which is hard. I think that's the part that people don't realize when they get involved with these kind of gangs is they don't realize that it is actually a family they're joining. They think of it as just a clique at a table, but a cool one and a fun one that does things, and then it's way more than you think.
Sad.
Yeah, it's hard.
All right, that's all I have.
Awesome. It was a really good show. I thought it was a little predictable.
Yeah.
I felt like the first 2 episodes were intentionally very expository, like to get you into the world quickly so that you can just go ahead. But, I felt like, okay, they're really doing like the whole like prologue. Like they're just telling me everything I need to kind of know to follow this story forward.
Right.
So it was a little predictable in that manner, but it was still very entertaining.
Yeah. And I think it might have been less predictable when it first came on.
Maybe.
Too. Like, this is the kind, a lot of shows have followed this formula since then. And I think maybe it was a little less formulaic then because people are using this formula now.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like, there was never any doubt it was her mom in the motel.
Oh, yeah.
Like, immediately.
Oh.
Like,
I don't think I got that the first time.
No, I was like, oh, look, it's going to be her mom. And, oh, look. So, like, there was some things that I kind of just...
So I didn't get that it was her mom until her dad reacted big to seeing the license plate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when he reacted big to seeing license plate, I'm like, oh, well, of course it's her mother.
Yeah. No, the outside of the motel when she's snapping photos, I was like, it's going to be her mom.
Oh, well.
Only because they didn't show the face and it seemed like but they showed the hand. Up there, and she kept saying, "Give me the shot. Let's see who it is." And I was like, "Oh, it's gotta be our mom."
Yeah, she's not getting the shot because then she'd know.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't make that connection. The first time I watched it, I guess I wasn't. The first time I watched it, I was not watching it for this.
Oh, right.
I just
You're not
happened
paying
to
attention that much. Yeah.
It was, I was making lunch or whatever
Yeah.
while it's on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I tend to enjoy kind of guessing, I guess. So I
Yeah.
do tend to do that. But yeah, it was really enjoyable. I really liked it. So
Yeah.
now to binge the rest of it.
Yeah, it's
Yay!
it's a fun binge. Just know what you're getting into for season 4.
Okay.
It's a little darker.
All right.
So just know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of remember that from the commercials.
I don't remember seeing commercials for season 4. But anyway, so next time. It's Happy Hometown Christmas.
Yay!
Yay! It's our annual episode where we each tell a hometown crime story and we tell your stories too. So I hope that you sent yours in because we're going to give away this fun ornament next time.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Join us. Thanks for listening. Tell a friend because it's more fun when you listen with a friend. Rate and review so that we can be found and continue to make the show. And until next time, be safe, be kind, and wash your hands.
Bum, bum, bum. Da, da, da.